What's up, guys? Adam back with RV Returns, another episode of Blitz Tech. This is going to be Blitz Tech number 4. We're going to go through mono win this time. We have whatever listeners, CeeJay. He submitted this mono win deck, and he wanted us to go through it. Mono wind is kind of an archetype that was kind of popular in Opus 4. Like you saw like the big wind style decks, but I haven't really seen it much in Opus 5 at all. And I think there's a couple reasons for that, to be honest. But let's go ahead and see if we can't look at his list and try to improve upon it. We have 3 Adele, 2 Arc, 3 Ranger, 3 Estola, 2 Zidane, Heroic Zidane, 3 Rare Barbarossa, 1 Emperor, 3 Barts, 1 Kamlanot, 3 Connie Cinna, and 2 Vaughn. So, I mean, looking at the forwards just off the top, they look pretty decent. There are a few improvements that I make, so let's kind of go through this one by one. So first up, we have Adele. This card's absolutely insane. I think if you're making any win deck, any deck that has wind in it, you should probably put 3 of this card in. It just steals games, sometimes puts you on a clock early, and you just have to be able to deal with it. And as long as you have consistently the win mana to pay for it every turn, I mean, it's just gonna get damage in unless you can remove it. So I think the card's good, and instantly in a mono win deck, I put in 3. So I think 3 is the right call here. He had a couple arcs in there. I'm not really too sure on how I feel about this card yet. It's an anthem, so that's good. But you are paying 3 mana for it, and it's a forward, so it's easier to remove than like a backup anthem. His second ability can come into play sometimes. It's basically like a Kobold Droid Jam, but you do have to be able to dull 3 active win forwards or backups, and that can be any combination. So it can be good to close out games. I do think that he's definitely a good card. I'm just not sure if I want him as a slot in my deck or not, but I do think he's good. Next up, we have Ranger. This guy's been in win decks for a while now. I mean, he's just really hard to deal with. You can't target him with abilities, so very good against, like, say, Mono Lightning or something. You can't outsid this guy. So he's kind of good in that way. He's also on curve, so, never bad. Good card. He had 3 Estolas. Estola's a new card to Opus 5. Very good card. Again, can't outsid this card either because it can't take damage from summons and abilities. She's also going to be able to break herself to cancel an auto, which not many cards can do, and actually the only cards that can do it both exist in Wind. So she is good in that regard. She lets you kind of overextend against Earth as long as you can KO her to cancel like a Shantoto or something. However, usually an Earth player will try to like deal with her first before they cast their Shantoto, so that it doesn't just get canceled. I do think she's a very good card. However, I don't know if I like 3. Definitely at least 2, but it's not like 3 is bad. Next up, I think he had 2 of the Heroic Zidane. So this card's pretty insane too. I mean, being able to discard is already good, but being able to look at your opponent's hand and pick what they discard is insane. Also, if you can keep the opponent to like having 2 cards in their hand at the end of every turn, this guy's a 7k. Which makes him pretty crazy because that's on curve. Again, you're going to usually get a lot of value out of this guy. Usually you're going to hit something that you want to hit, and at worst you get to see what they got, So again, I like this guy a lot. I think he was running 2, but I'd probably up the number to 3. So next he had Barbarossa. Again, card's good. Combos very well with Cactuar. The only issue is a lot of people are running like anthems right now because mono decks are kind of in swing. So even if she reduces the power down to 1,000, the Anthem's going to bump it back up to 2, and Cactuar is not going to net you that kill that it would normally net you unless you have a way to deal that extra 1,000. Card is good, slightly undercurved. You can also use it in like main 2 to kill something that was damaged, which can be good. So she's not bad. Just in mono win, doesn't have a lot of the pingier stuff that like a Wind Lightning deck might be able to use to abuse her. Next he has Emperor. Emperor's never bad. The one of, so can't really argue against it. It shuts down some archetypes. Just shuts off some cards completely, and you have to deal with them if you want to be able to use your cards. So I mean, pretty good card. Next up, he had the 5-drop Barts. In a mono win deck, the guy just makes sense. I mean, he readies all your win characters and you play him. You swing out, you tap out on main 1 or whatever. You play this guy main 2. Everything untaps. And then you're good to go into your opponent's turn, and everything's ready, up to block, up to play summons, stuff like that. so he can be really annoying. And on top of that, he's a 9k body, so pretty big. Really good card in a mono wind. Next he had one Kamlanat. So this is a guy that's seeing a ton of play right now. He's a very strong card. Usually more strong when he's in a multicolored deck because he allows you to tutor for that chaos. But in single color decks, he's not really getting that. Or if he is, you're not getting that much value out of it. You do get a 2-cost backup, which is great, that you can instantly play. And then this guy becomes another color the next turn, which can shut down a lot of cards from your opponent, especially since, again, mono is very popular right now. However, in this win deck, I don't know if I like him that much. He's really great in, say, like Earth, where you have access to Star Sybil to tutor him out, and then you can play him for basically just KOing the Sybil, and then get your Chaos, play your Chaos, or get your Zodiark or whatever. But in this deck, the way he has it built, he's only tutoring out the Emperor, and I really feel like he might not need either. But again, neither one of these cards is bad, and they're very playable. Next, he had 3 of Connie Cinna. Now, this is a win card that was very popular when you had the mono win decks back in Opus 4. She's a very strong card when you get the whole Cinna package going. However, more powerful summons have been starting to get played more in Opus 5 than there were in Opus 4. So she can still be targeted by summons, just can't be targeted by abilities. So again, it's really annoying for some decks, but for some decks I can just get rid of her. However, she does get really big. She's essentially free if you have the other Cinnas out, and you can't target her, so pretty good card. Next he had a couple of the Opus One Bond. Again, I'm not a huge fan of this card. It does have some really solid plays in this deck, though. Like, you could play this guy, then drop an Adele, play it, then drop an Arc. And then when he attacks, he's ready in 2 backups. However, I mean, outside of dropping the 3-drop, he's not that great. And he is taking up slots in your deck, so I'm not really too sure how I feel about it. But he's not terrible. Just, I would rather probably have other things. So let's go ahead and look at the summons. So with the summons, it's pretty short here. So you got 2 Diablos, 2 Valifor, 2 pretty decent summons. And then for monsters, we got 3 Cactuar. So let's go ahead and take a closer look at these. So first up is Diablos, the new Opus 5 legendary summon for Wind. This card's very versatile, and it's good for that reason, but it is a bit pricey. However, in mono wind, the plus is generally you can make this guy just basically free. I mean, you can make him free outside of mono wind, but on top of the fact that you're making a lot of other things free, and then making this free, it can kind of be overwhelming for the opponent since you're not really paying anything for your cards, and you're also doing things. However, it is a little bit limited in what it does. It doesn't just kind of kill everything. It will break straight up 5 or more. It'll break those. Anything 4 or less, it basically becomes kind of like a Barbarossa light effect because it can only do it to 4 or less, but it does the exact same thing. However, it also, because it does the exact same thing, it has the exact same weaknesses as that card. You can also use this to activate all your forwards or your backups. So maybe, end of main 2 or beginning of main 2, you had already swung out. You want to just activate everything and play this for free. You can do that as long as you have 5 backups in play. There's a lot of things you can do with this card. It is very good, but it also shows the weaknesses of Wind, which is removal. And their removal is very narrow, and it only targets certain things, and this guy kind of does that as well. But he is a good card, and I think he is seeing more in across other decks, not just mono Wind. Next up, we have the Legendary Valifor from Opus One. Again, another very good card in the right deck. The nice thing about this is, like I said before, you can play a lot of things for free. So returning stuff to your hand doesn't necessarily affect you the same way as it would affect your opponent, because your opponent's going to have to pay for all that stuff all over again. You'll have to pay for your stuff again too. However, when you play for your stuff, you're going to ready everything, play something else, ready everything, and then play another card. So sometimes you could play 3 cards and spend like 4 mana. Whereas your opponent, if they want to play the same 3 cards, they're going to have to spend like 14 mana. So it's not actually equivalent. However, it does kind of set you back when you pay 5 for this and then you want to replay your stuff, because now you're kind of delaying yourself a turn, even though you're also delaying your opponent a turn. So it really depends on when this is good. It is seeing a lot more play in Opus 5, but not really in this type of deck, more so in like the monster style decks, because monsters aren't forwards, so they don't really care if everything else goes back to their hand. However, it is a good card, and it can win you games, and it can set your opponent back, kind of force them to have to play a lot of things back onto the field. So, again, a very good card. And then for the monster slot, we had Cactuar. Again, this card is very strong. just being able to tap and deal 1,000 can kind of put you over the top in some situations where you wouldn't normally win a battle. Say it's like a 7k versus an 8k, now you're trading, technically. And then the second ability can just flat out kill a forward at the expense of 1 point of damage to yourself. It kind of sucks that your EX bursts don't go off. However, I mean, again, it's just basically straight up killing anything. So it's a very good card. I prefer other monsters like Kobold Droid in this build more so than Cactuar. I think Cactuar really shines in like a Wind Lightning build. However, it is a very good card and it's a pretty good piece of removal. So let's go ahead and look at his backups. So for backups, we have 2 Archer, 1 Oracle, 2 Rhea Cinna, 2 Theif, 2 White Mage, 3 Aerith, 3 Aerith Cinna, and 2 Maria. So let's take a closer look at these ones. So first up, we have the Opus One Archer. This guy's a win staple. Not much more needs to be said. I mean, he breaks a backup, so it's pretty good generally in most matchups, and he's great to play on turn 1. So great card. Next is the Oracle. This guy is pretty good too. Sometimes he's just barts on your opponent's turn, basically, so you can swing out, break this guy, ready everything, and go crazy. Have stuff up every turn. Just threaten with this is really good. And the fact that he breaks to make room for other backups, because this backup line for this deck can get kind of tight, is great. Next is Rhea Cinna. So this card basically is going to make your Connie Cinna not be able to be targeted by abilities. Also a great turn 1 backup. It's already out there. Play Connie Cinna later. If you're playing Connie Cinna, it's kind of no-brainer to play this card. Next up, we have Theif. This is probably one of my favorite Opus 5 cards. I think this guy's really good. So when he breaks, he's basically a Zidane, except he can't target summons. So he gets to look at your opponent's hand and discard a character card from their hand. He's a great turn 1 play, and then later down the line again, you can break him just like Oracle, make room for other backups. So I think this card is very good. Same with White Mage, another really good turn 1 backup. Play this guy for 2, pay 1, break him, activate, and give something plus 1,000 power. Sometimes I can put you just enough over the top to be threatening to a board. And then sometimes they'll let you swing, you threaten this, and now they don't even want to attack, because if they attack, you could just break this, ready them, block. So it's just a pretty good 2-drop backup. Then next we have the 3-cost Aerith. Basically, you play her for free, because when you have 3 backups, you tap 3, you play her, you untap 3 backups that you used to pay for. And then her S, Planet Protector, can just win games. I mean, you can if you cancel the right summon or the right ability at the right time, it can just be backbreaking for the opponent. And you do run 3 of these, so you can have that. And there's an option to run a 4th Aerith if you think the S is going to win you that many games. But yeah, I mean, I've seen this just kind of crush people by canceling, like, say, a Raiden or an Odin or something like that, where you just paid 7 or 9 mana, and now it's just canceled. And then you have 3 of the Aerith Cinna. This guy's a tutor for your Connie Cinna or your other backups. So if you have 1 piece, you go get the other piece. If you have no pieces, you typically will get the other backup, play the other backup, or get the Connie Cinna if you just need the board presence. But most of the time, you want to just keep building your backup. I think the whole idea of this deck is get to 5 backups, start playing things for free, basically. So this guy kind of helps you do that. And then lastly, you have Maria. Not much to be said here. Use all your guys plus 1,000. Never bad. Probably one of the best win backups in the game. So she's really great. I think 2 is the right number here for her. And yeah, I mean, there's game. You want to have her in your backup line basically every game. So let's go ahead and take a look at the other deck. So for my forwards, I have 3 Adele, 2 Dorgan, 3 Ranger, 1 Ritz, 2 Y'Stola, 3 Zidane, 2 Moogle, 1 Trey, 3 Barts, 3 Connie Cinna, and 1 Minerva. So let's take a closer look at these. So first up, we have Adele again. Again, card's insane. I don't think I could say anything more than I've already said. She just puts you on a clock and she wins games. So I think 3 of her in any win deck is pretty much necessary. Then next up, we have Dorgan. Like I said, one of the weaknesses of Wind is the fact that they don't really have that great of removal. But in Dorgan now you can threaten removal every turn as long as he's been out for a turn. So I think that's great. Usually it forces them to use removal on Dorgan because they don't want to lose their guy to Dorgan. So I think in this deck it's kind of necessary to have a removal like this. So that's why I put a couple Dorgans in the deck. So back to Ranger again. Again, this guy's just hard to deal with. He's very annoying. So I think it's good to have him in the deck. I have a 1-of Ritz, mainly just for the water matchup. You slam this down, you don't have to worry about Leviathan or Sildra, but no one's playing that card anymore, really. Or Strago. So he's just really good in those matchups. I'm not really running Shara here to get anything out of like her second ability or get anything out of Shara. It's really just the 1 Ritz for the water matchup. Then I'm running 2 Estola instead of 3, so I think 2 is the right number here. She's very good. I mean, when she's good, she's very good. But sometimes she's just a vanilla 7k that just kind of threatens, and she's not really doing too much. But most of the time she's not. Most of the time she's great. But I do think you don't really need to run 3 because you're probably going to see her with just the 2 kind of when you need her. I bumped up Zidane to 3. I think being able to play this guy multiple times a game is just crazy. Most of the time you're going to play him, and then you're just going to keep swinging with him, and you don't give a crap if he dies. So you could just play another one, and then you get something out of their hand. Sometimes they'll take the damage because they think you have another Zidane, and they don't want to discard what they have. So you can play some mind games with that. Again, I think this card's really, really good, and he can just literally win you a game by getting the right card. So I put a couple Moogles in here. I like this card a lot. Again, it gives you more draw power, and you want to see more cards in this deck. Like, you want to keep playing your big guys. And so sometimes Moogle draws you 2 cards. I mean, more often than not, he's going to draw you 2 cards. Sometimes, you know, if you're playing against a unit or something, they may be able to prevent that second card. But usually he's at least drawing you the 1. Then next we have Trey. Another kind of card that's just really annoying. So when he's active, he can't be targeted by abilities. And when he's dull, he can't be targeted by summons. So you can kind of play with that a little bit. Like swing the turns where you think they might do a summon, it kind of forces them to cast a summon on him before he attacks. Or keep him ready if you're afraid of abilities. So you can kind of go both ways with that. He's just a 1-of in my build. I think he was a lot more popular, maybe like a 2-of in Opus 4 builds, but right now I think he's just a 1-of, and you could cut him, honestly. Again, I have Bards here for the same reasons I said before. He can do a lot of things, a lot of cool Bane 2 tricks. And he's a burst, so if he comes off the top and he just readies all your guys, he can prevent damage sometimes. I kept the Cinna package in. I think she's still good if you're playing Mono Wind. So, I mean, again, with Bards, you can do kind of similar things that Bards does with her. You can kind of ready all your guys. So, and she gets really big. I cut the dark stuff and added in a Minerva. So, sometimes being able just to shut down your opponent's abilities is really good. Say, like Dottaluma or something like that. Like, stuff that really messes with you on your turn. This also shuts down backups as well in monsters too. So it just blanks out their entire field. And then sometimes you just want to draw an extra card. I think why this card is really good in this particular build is you can do turns like have 5 backups out, play a Bartz, ready everything, tap all your backups, play a Connie Cinna, ready everything, tap your backups, pitch 1 card, play a Minerva. You just went from an empty board to 2 5-drops and a 7-drop. You just went from 0 power on your board to like 29k power on your board. So it can be really good. And again, it is cuttable. I just think sometimes it's a huge blowout, and against the right deck, like if they don't stop this the turn it comes out, like it's going to be really, really hard for them to deal with it. So again, I mean, this card is very good. So let's go ahead and look at the summons and monsters. So for summons and monsters, I kind of went in a different direction. I did keep the 2 new legendary Diablos, but I added 2 Diablos from Opus 3, 2 Chaos Walker the Wheel, and then I replaced the Cactars with the Kobold Droidians. So let's look at these cards and kind of see why I chose these over the others. So first up is Chaos Walker the Wheel. Usually this card is played with Yuna. However, like I said before, Wynn can have trouble removing things. So even though it feels bad to play this, not knowing kind of what's in their hand, can bite you. However, since you have Theif, since you have Zidane, sometimes you can play that, look at their hand, be like, okay, I know they don't have better options in this 5-drop that they just played. Let me remove this 5-drop, and even if they play the 2-drop that I saw in their hand, I'm okay. And then sometimes you can look at their hand, they don't have any forwards, so that's great too. And then sometimes you just have to play this blind as much as you don't want to. Just to be able to remove a threat that you wouldn't know, like any other way you wouldn't have a way to remove it. So, as much as it doesn't feel that good playing without Yuna, I think it is a little bit necessary just because Wind needs that removal, and like cards like Alexander just are too narrow in use and not enough for what you need. The next up, we have Diablos again. Basically, all the things that I said before. Um, he's just versatile, and that's why I think it's a pretty good card. I think you could probably cut this down to 1, honestly, but I kept it at 2. Just because of the versatility, sometimes it just comes into play. I added in the 3-cost Diablos. So the reason I added this in is because typically with this deck, when you build your backups and you play your forwards, because you're going to build your backups first and then you're going to start playing forwards usually, you tend to have 7 to 8 characters on the board when you're like kind of going. And so just being able to hit something for 8k is usually the right number, and it feels pretty good for 3 mana. Sometimes you're not going to hit for as much, but sometimes that allows you to trade up, as long as they're not playing Minwoo or something like that. And this is an EX burst as well, which is great. And then I replaced the Cactuars with the Koboldroid Yens. So Cactuar is good when you tie it with Barbarossa, but I also took out the Barbarossa as well. The thing that this gives you that Cactuar doesn't give you is, just like Adele, this puts you on a clock. So this early can be very, very hard to deal with, and there's not a lot of monster removal going around, so he can be even harder to go with than Adele sometimes. And basically his ability makes him almost unblockable, because 2-drops aren't really running rampant right now in the meta. It's usually like 3 costs or higher, so a lot of decks don't even have 2-drops at all to stop this guy. And that could be a real problem for them, because if you get Adele and this thing going, like they're on like a 4-turn clock at that point, and they have to get rid of one of them at least to kind of soften that clock. So let's go ahead and look at the backups that I chose. So my backups are basically the same as his. I think that this is a great set of backups. The only difference is I took out the 1-of Oracle and put in a 3rd Archer, just because I think being able to break other people's 3 or less backups can be very good. Backup destruction is kind of hard to come by these days, and Archer gives you that, which is great. But I think cutting 1 Archer could be fine, going to the 1-of Oracle, or cutting a Light Mage, putting Oracle in. You could definitely slide that Oracle back in, no problem. I just like having 3 Archers. But I think this backup line is great. I wouldn't touch it too much. Like, I wouldn't really add anything crazy. It does what it needs to do, and it does it very well. So with that, I really don't think there's much need to go into the detailed backups, because there's not very many differences, to be honest. And actually, there really isn't any. So with that, this is our 4th Blitz deck. So let me know in the comments if you disagree or agree with the changes that I made. Let me know if there's changes that you think should be made, that you think are just better than mine, or maybe mine's crap. It's okay, just let us know. And again, if you want to have your deck put on here, just send us a message, and we'll definitely get around to it. We definitely need more decks. We're starting to run out of a few, and I promise soon Mono Lightning is coming. I know we've been promising that, but we do have a Mono Lightning deck, Blitz deck coming up, and should be done by someone other than me, hopefully. So with that, I guess we'll go ahead and sign off, and see you guys later. Peace.